everywhere. The Walking Dead season premiere Sunday, October 23rd at 9, only on AMC.
Millions. Okay, Thursday edition of the After Show. You got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the West Coast. Thank God it's Giovedi. We're almost to the weekend. Sorry for the long delay. Something's wrong with the settings. We're trying to figure it out like we have for the last 5 years. But we'll figure it out, hopefully, before the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, when they look
which will be coming up soon. All right. How you doing, Wink?
Not bad, not bad. It is 62, mostly cloudy, mostly gloomy out there, but some sunshine kind of peeking through. Reminder, get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com. Scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And, of course, it's the election season, which never stops. So we have a Get Out the Vote drive going on the homepage. So check that out.
Yes.
To the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon. It is currently 55 degrees, going up to 82. Should be clear. Still holding out for a chance of rain Sunday. We'll see how that happens. And that's that. So since we're so far behind, these are the issues we're going to be attending to today. Texas prisons banned books by Shakespeare, Langston Hughes, Gore Vidal, Flannery O'Connor, Sinclair Lewis, and Thomas More, but Hitler and David Duke are okay. A Tennessee parole board won't clear a black man's name because he was involved in several fights during his 31 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. And investigative journalists discover police officers across the U.S. violate state and federal databases to stalk ex-lovers, find dates, harass police union opponents, and more. Oh, yeah. On the last half, we report that in a chilling attack on the free press, conservative judges on an appellate court insist that journalists who report on specific government rules and regulations. I'll repeat that. Journalists who report on specific government rules and regulations would render those rules and regulations illegal. I'll have to dive into that and find out what the hell's going on. And after withdrawing its plan to experiment on 225 wild horses rather than face multiple lawsuits, the Bureau of Land Management Advisory Board recommends killing 45,000 wild horses kept in government corrals.
Yeah.
All that, plus the Connect Unite Act Daily Codes Community Calendar and more on the After Show with that fellow on the East Coast, and his name is Wink, and this guy over here on the West Coast, and my name is Justice, and yada, yada, yeah, we do it because we really, who loves you, baby?
Yes.
All right.
Indeed.
Okay. Sorry about the snafu, folks. I know. I guess it should just be expected. You know, when you listen to the After Show, maybe we can advertise the least produced podcast in podcast radio.
There we go.
That could be what we're known for, which is always grand. All right. Texas prisons. When a prisoner is behind... Oh, I'm sorry. This is by Sarah K. Burris. The great Sarah K. Burris. And this is out of Raw Story. When a prisoner is behind bars, he or she typically has access to a library of donated books to push the time. Or to pass the time. There are stories about incarcerated people getting their GED or even taking college classes. Others learned enough law to fight for appeals. Then... some just read the classics available on the shelves. That is, unless you're in a jail in Texas. Oh, my God. I don't want to beat up on Texas, but this is written by a Texan, so it's okay.
Yeah.
According to the press, the type of books available are growing smaller and smaller each year. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice has consistently been working to rid jails of specific titles for decades. But after banning Wolf Boys due to finding a single page to be offensive, they're finally drawing public outrage. The new Dan Slater book is about two Mexican-American teenagers in Texas. They get drawn into a life of crime by the drug cartels, and a Mexican-born Texas detective is tasked with finding them. According to the reviews, the tale is a little violent and the outlook isn't great, but according to The Guardian, it serves as a thoughtful look at American society and the war on drugs. Well, no wonder the Texas prisons don't want that. It's a thoughtful look. that. Thinking? You're in prison. You're not here to think. Before the book was even published, it was banned due to 2 sentences that described the way someone smuggled illegal drugs. Okay. Yep, can't have that. Oh, yeah, they might find out something that they already know. The system is so aggressive and arbitrary, the author said, if you asked me to name 100 sentences that might have gotten my book banned, those would not have even made the list. But Slater's book isn't the only strange choices. Books by Langston Hughes, Vidal, O'Connor, Sinclair Lewis, and Thomas More have all been banned. The guidelines for Texas are so loose that realistically anyone could ban any book for any reason. Okay. Except for the Left Behind series, where the Earth's going to be destroyed and the apocalypse happens.
Yes.
Can't get rid of that for any reason. They were supposed to be banned if the books obviously, if there was any mention of how to make weapons, drugs, or explosives, and if there was anything in the book that would incite a prison riot or has sexually explicit images. By that same logic, the Bible depicts murder, rape, sex, and one of its leading characters encourages breaking laws and revolts against the king. I think they wear a symbol of them around their necks. It's called a crucifix, or a cross if you're not of that particular persuasion that, would wear a crucifix.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, books The Color Purple, who won a Pulitzer Prize, has been banned. A book of Shakespeare's sonnets was banned because of a nude painting on the cover. Dante's Inferno and Buzz Bissinger's Friday Night Lights are also on the block list. Well, I guess they describe hell, don't they? A collection of Leonardo da Vinci sketches was also banned for nudity, but a kinky sex book titled The Pleasure's All Mine passed through.
Yeah.
To make matters worse, Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf and David Duke's My Awakening also get the Texas Correction sign of approval because, hey, they're just local people, historical figures. You're just telling people what they need to know.
Yeah. Pretty much it.
But get this, as does Che Guevara's guerrilla warfare, proving the book ban is not only arbitrary, but ridiculous.
Yeah.
2011 investigation by the Texas Civil Rights Project found about 11,800 titles on the ban list. In just 5 years, that's grown to over 15,000. While the issue is a national problem, Michelle Dillon, program coordinator of the Seattle-based nonprofit Books to Prisoners, told The Guardian, Texas is less rational than other states. Really? Okay. That doesn't mean all Texas and all the people in it. We're just talking about the people that make these decisions. And maybe the cadre of citizenry who, pushes a particular agenda that would cause books to be banned. I don't know how one would want to ban books in a democracy anyway, prison or not. Okay. Because if you improve critical thinking skills, maybe then one wouldn't go out and hit somebody over the head and take their wallet. Because you might think that maybe that might not be a good idea, which would be exercising some critical thinking skills. I guess. To make matters worse, the decision of whether to ban is essentially left up to a mail clerk. Okay. Who decides when books come in and if they'll pass through to the inmate or not. Okay, so that's where it is. It gets right down there. The guy's coming in and goes, I don't know, this book. Philosophy of the cosmos. Forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
Hitler, sounds familiar. I don't know. I haven't heard any bad things about him. They gets to go. Okay. There's no accountability, Dillon says. She also noted there's no consistency because one clerk will let a book go to the inmate while another will ban the same book because he or she is having a bad day or even because he or she has conservative values. We understand there are sometimes concerns, said Deborah Caldwell Stone of the American Library Association, but if that was the rule, it would be more about taking specific books from specific prisoners. Books like Lolita probably shouldn't go to those in prison for pedophilia or child pornography, for example. Well, that means they'd have to do some work. they'd actually have to hire competent prison staff who might also possess something sorely lacking, and that's called critical thinking skills. Because if you hire someone with critical thinking skills, you might have to pay them more because they're competent. Unfortunately, the courts have not been friendly to us and support the rights of prison officials instead of the rights of prisoners to educate and rehabilitate themselves, Stone concluded. And of course, it's about retribution, not rehabilitation. If you don't fill the prison beds, they don't get the money.
Right.
And I'll say, there was only one of the two candidates who were at the debate the other night who said that we shouldn't be filling beds because of a profit motive.
Right.
And that was the one in the pantsuit.
Yes.
Okay. Tennessee won't clear a black man's name because he fought during 31 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. This is by Travis Geddes out of Raw Story as well. A Tennessee parole board refused again to clear the name of a black man who spent 31 years in prison for a rape he did not commit. Lawrence McKinney was released in 2009 after DNA evidence got his 1978 conviction on rape and burglary charges overturned, but he has been unsuccessful in obtaining an executive exoneration. Oh, did I mention the fellow's black? I wonder if that has something to do with it. Oh, yeah, DNA. We couldn't get you on this one, but you must have done something else. I mean, how many times do we hear that? We couldn't get him on the crime he really committed, but we got him on something else, so. The 60-year-old McKinney appeared Tuesday before a parole board where he told state officials that he turned down a 5-year plea agreement in exchange for his testimony against another man because he simply didn't know anything about the crime. They came to him. Maybe they knew all along that he was innocent, and they needed him to turn on another inmate. This fellow didn't know anything about the crime, and he wasn't going to go in front of a judge and a jury and commit perjury, even if he was put there by the cops. And so what's the punishment this fellow gets? An innocent man, 31 years in prison. And all of the dynamics that prison presents. Like, I don't know, you always hear about prison rape. So he fights off his attackers, and that's a mark against him when he's found to be DNA exonerated. And the parole board, I don't know. This is maddening. McKinney testified during the 4-hour exoneration. He was eventually convicted in the case and sentenced to 100 years in prison for the rape and 10 to 15 years for the burglary. McKinney testified during the 4-hour exoneration. Get that? 100 years. Spent 31 years of it before they let him go because he didn't do the crime.
Right.
And Scalia's ghost is saying, hey, he had his day in court. It's not our job to determine the innocence of someone, but just to convict them and put them away so that the prison beds can be filled and someone makes a bunch of money.
Yeah, exactly.
U.S.
That's the way it works here in the USA.
Okay, McKinney testified during the 4-hour exoneration hearing that he was at home when the victim was sexually assaulted and raised his voice several times as he defended himself. He explained to the parole board that he had made admissions about the crime at a previous hearing after he spent 28 years behind bars in the hopes of getting released. Remember in Shawshank Redemption when, the one guy, I'm having a brain lock on the actor's name. We all know him.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It's adamant, I'm sorry. It's at the point where it goes, I've been reformed and whatever, and then at the point where he goes, well, I don't care. Sonny, right?
Exactly right.
Obviously, we've been able to kowtow this fellow. He's no longer an issue. And so he probably, this fellow is going in there just saying, okay, 28 years is long enough. I did something there, so let me go. I mean, how many times have people copped a plea?
Right.
For instance, right? So even though they were innocent, but they decided that they could suffer greater harm, like this guy getting 100 years plus 10 to 15 for the burglary.
Right. Yeah.
Because it wasn't only a rape that he didn't commit, but he was nowhere there, left any DNA there. He didn't commit the rape and he didn't commit the burglary. He explained, but board members asked whether he was telling the truth then or now. Well, the DNA tells the truth, doesn't it? I guess not in Tennessee. Ton Goebel, the parole board member who conducted the hearing, questioned the completeness of the DNA evidence that led to McKinney's release. What? And he pointed to the lengthy disciplinary record the wrongfully convicted man compiled while spending decades in prison. Well, McKinney did not deny the reported 97 incidents he was involved in while incarcerated, but he explained to the parole board that only the strong survive in prison culture. Well, yeah. A former inmate urged the parole board not to exonerate McKinney, who said he had stabbed him during a prison altercation, but McKinney's attorney said the claims are false. The parole board recommended 7-0 not to exonerate McKinney, who had also failed to get his name cleared in one previous attempt shortly after the DNA evidence showed he had not raped the woman or committed the burglary. Exoneration is an additional exoneration of innocence awarded by the governor that would allow McKinney to file for compensation with the Tennessee Board of Claims. So that's what it's about. Former Governor Bill Bredesen decided not to overrule the board's recommendation the first time and exonerate him, but McKinney's attorneys plan to ask current Governor Bill Haslam to clear his name. I got two good lawyers that God put by my side. Then I got a pastor and I got a church who are going to stand behind me, and I'm going to do the best that I can do to show who Jesus Christ is. And I got a beautiful wife, McKinney said, remaining hopeful. Well, good luck, fella.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's like, the labyrinth. This guy's thrown into this jail. Innocent, didn't commit the crime. People are pounding on him. He defends himself, and that's a mark against him. Oh, well, you must be guilty. Look, you fought to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we keep hearing about this push for law and order, but have you noticed that law and order never is ordered lawfully? How many laws are broken to assure law and order? Constitutional invasions of privacy is a big one, of course. Unconstitutional search and seizure, unconstitutional violations of right to assembly. How many times are those violated in a law and order society? Which, by its mere violation, means that they are not ordered lawfully. Well, this story is not just about cops in a particular department or a particular precinct. This is a study of cops or an investigation of cops all across the U.S. And this story is by Callie Holloway out of Alternate. And a new Associated Press. I hope we could talk about it. The Associated Press doesn't really like you to mention anything that they do as a violation of their terms of use. But I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah.
This is a public import. Okay.
Yeah.
A new Associated Press investigation finds that a troubling number of U.S. police officers have used confidential federal and state databases, which contain sensitive information on civilians, including home addresses, phone numbers, birthdays, and more, for their personal use for purposes that run the gamut from looking up information on potential dates to aiding friends in seeking revenge on their exes. Well, that's nice. The investigation, which is based on a national survey from state and major city law enforcement agencies, turned up more than 325 cases between 2013 and 2015, when police department employees were suspended, fired, or stepped down after database misuse was discovered. Less severe punishments resulted in another 250 cases, from slap-on-the-wrist written reprimands to no disciplinary action at all, and unspecified measures were taken in 90 cases, since there is no central entity tasked with monitoring and cataloging incidents of database misuse. AP researchers suggest that their numbers likely fall short of capturing the big picture of database abuse in its entirety. Well, that's interesting. There's AP's admitting, like, we can't study at all. I mean, we're astounded by the numbers we have now. Amazing. The stories gathered by AP staffers show cases in which officers or other police staffers showed brazen disregard for the rules in looking up private info for non-work-related matters. They point to the case of a Mancos, Colorado marshal who asked co-workers to run license plate checks for every white pickup truck they saw because his girlfriend was seeing a man who drove a white pickup truck. I think the legal term for that is called abuse of power under color of law.
I think so, yeah.
One officer in Ohio looked up information on the landlord of a female friend and then went to the landlord's home in the middle of the night to get money the cops said he owed her. I think that's called abuse of power under color of law. Another Ohio officer used a database to aid in gathering information on an ex-girlfriend as he stalked her. These cases were rarities in that they were egregious enough to merit the pursuit of criminal charges against the officers involved. Because I guess in, blue line culture, it's got, simple little things like, getting a date. No problem on that. Eek. Well, this is the creepy part right here. Perhaps a more typical case involves a Denver, Colorado cop who used crime databases to help with his dating prospects, reaching out to a woman he met in the midst of a rape case investigation. Ars Technica elaborates on the story, pulled from a 142-page Denver Independent Monitor office report on police abuse of crime databases. On May 15th of 2015, a female hospital employee spoke with a Denver Police Department officer who was at the hospital to investigate a reported sexual assault. The female employee was not involved in the investigation, but the officer made small talk with her after his interview of the sexual assault victim. At the end of her shift, the female employee returned home and found a voicemail message from the officer on her personal phone. She had not given the officer her phone number and was upset that he had obtained it, she assumed, by improperly using law enforcement computer systems. During an investigation into the incident, records revealed that the officer had, in fact, used national and Colorado state databases and other Denver Police Department databases to obtain her phone number, and the officer ultimately admitted to this conduct. The report goes on to note that the officer was issued a written reprimand for database misuse and was docked 2 days' pay for leaving an unwelcome voice message that upset the female employee. I think the legal definition of that is called a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, pretty much.
While the AP notes the number of cases indicating police wrongdoing on this front are dwarfed by the voluminous number of daily searches, which tally in the millions, incidents of database misuse are serious issues. It's personal. It's your address. It's all your information. It's your social security number. It's everything about you. Alexis Decany, the Ohio woman whose cop ex-boyfriend used database information to stalk her, and told the AP. And when they use it for ill purposes to commit crimes against you, to stalk you, to follow you, to harass you, it just becomes so dangerous. Well, yeah. Because I got to tell you, there's like 3 things I'd like to have in terms of accountability on the police department. Because these are numbers that we don't get to hear too much. One is, well, did they abuse animals when they were kids?
Yeah.
Steroidal use, current or in the past. And how many times do cops get involved in domestic abuse cases? Whether just simply beating or actually killing their wives. Oh, and then themselves.
Indeed.
I would be curious about that number. Is that track with the rest of society, or is there some anomaly that's peculiar? Because, there is an old joke. Oh, a cop beat up his wife? I'm shocked. Now, of course, once again, cops are identifiable because, not only of the uniform, but, the tasks that they are committed to. All right? So it's probably easy to say, oh, well, cops, on the surface because they're visible, right? Identifiable racial groups are often, called to be bad drivers. It's hard to identify a French person versus a German person necessarily. And I got to tell you, French people are probably the worst drivers in the world, more so than the Italians, but it's hard to differentiate between the two. But you see an Asian driver, and oh yeah, Asians are all bad drivers because to the European, I guess that's identifiable. But you don't identify across, various regions in the European sphere necessarily. So I will say that cops in their position are identifiable. Everybody knows the cop down the street. They probably pay no attention to the tire changer manager who's beating up his wife also. So, we have to consider that. But there are many industries in which these issues can be dealt with because you probably want to keep people on the job and change bad behavior and turn it into good. Why not? The sentiment of danger was echoed by Deb Roshan, who previously served as the commissioner of Wabasha County, Minnesota. Roshan, along with 17 others, filed a 2013 federal lawsuit alleging that local government officials and law enforcement personnel violated the Federal Driver's Privacy Protection Act and state common law claims for invasion of privacy by querying state driver record databases to obtain statutorily protected confidential information. What? Rosen indicated to AP reporters that the database searches were politically motivated, a reaction to her queries about the management of local funds use. Nice. Now there are people who do not like me that have all my private information, any information that could be used against me, Roshan, who says a public records request indicated her daughter and spouse were also subject to illegal searches. They could steal my identity. They could sell it to someone. The sense of being vulnerable. There's no fix to that. In mid-September, 7 Oakland police officers were charged in connection with a sex scandal involving an underage girl. And I got to tell you, it's not just the Oakland PD. This is all across the Bay Area. There are police departments and state highway patrol officers, San Francisco police officers, Richmond police officers, San Leandro, Hayward, who have all been involved in this sex scandal with an underage, with a teenager. It's a big scandal there, week. According to the girl, who is now 19 but was under 18 at the time of the alleged acts, police officers provided her with database-derived information in exchange for sex. The cops who stand accused of sexual abuse, which is absolutely what it should be called when adult cops have sex with an underage girl, allegedly either paid her or tipped her to anti-prostitution stings or ran names of people she was curious about through confidential databases. 3 officers have resigned since the scandal first rocked the Bay Area. In another recent high-profile case, the New York Times reports that former NYPD Sergeant Richard G. Buell accepted money to tap into restricted law enforcement databases to furnish information to a former officer who was working as an investigator for criminal defense lawyers. Buell was paid for his illegal searches and the information he unearthed and passed along. And he pleaded guilty this February and now faces up to 5 years behind bars. I wonder if they're going to dock him some time because he gets some fights in prison. Probably not. Well, it goes on. There's just a slew of this going on, and they chronicle this quite well. The problem of confidential civilian data misuse is not unique to the U.S. A report from Big Brother Watch, a UK-based civil liberties and privacy rights group, found that between 2011 and December of 2015, approximately 2,300 data breaches were committed by law enforcement officers and other police department employees. They might not carry guns, but they got the database. Over 800 members of staff accessed personal information without a policing purpose, and information was inappropriately shared with third parties more than 800 times. Specific incidents show officers misusing their access to information for financial gain and other purposes unrelated to work, which I guess the police unions can say, hey, we're not doing anything different than what the rest of the world does. So it must be okay. And as a matter of fact, we've got information on you, sonny boy. Can you sleep? Well, that's rather frightening. Let's go to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back, go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar, and then the stories for the last half. You're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice Ed. We will be right back.
The media establishment has labeled Donald Trump a populist, endorsing his absurd assertion that while he might be a billionaire, he'll be our billionaire, fighting for us commoners. I'm not telling anyone how to vote, and I certainly understand the inclination to grab the biggest stick you can find to whack the bejesus out of those political and corporate elites holding you and your family down. And Trump has sold himself as the biggest, baddest stick around. But I am here to say, don't be a sucker. There's not a single populist muscle in Donnie's whole plutocratic body. He'll sell out wage earners, small business people, and anyone else to serve his own needs or whims, as his lifelong record, as opposed to his recent rhetoric, reveals. Donnie learned to be self-serving from his father, Fred, who became a millionaire by getting federal housing subsidies to build apartment buildings in New York City. Then, as landlord, he flagrantly discriminated against black people trying to rent an apartment. One of Fred's tenants was none other than Woody Guthrie, who was so appalled by Daddy Trump's greed and racism that he wrote songs denouncing him. The Donald not only inherited Fred's fortune, but also his business ethics, including engaging in wage theft, outsourcing his expensive Trump-branded products to such low-wage countries as China and Vietnam, and illegally using and underpaying undocumented immigrants to build his luxury projects. Also, he's been sued hundreds of times for stiffing cabinet makers, plumbers, and other small business suppliers. This is Jim Hightower saying, Donald J. Trump is a swaggering son of privilege who has never been on the side of working people and most certainly would not be a populist president. To the contrary, in his heart, mind, and his whole being, he's nothing but a Trumpist of, by, and for himself.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Powered by Unity Networks. You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
We're back.
Indeed, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. This is the after show of Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the east coast. Our crew. No, that's true. They are the ethereal creatures, and, they do great work. So, when I'm, and I should say, I guess by all rights, I should divulge that, I'm part of the crew too. But we are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the after show, to span the globe, the universe, and beyond.
Heck yeah.
Or and beyond. Very good. All right, today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar is facilitated as it is every Thursday by Paradise 50, unless it isn't. But like I've mentioned before, I guess they're not getting picked for jury duty anymore.
Right, which is a good thing.
Well, I don't know. It's your civic duty.
It is your civic duty, yeah.
But, been called many times, never served.
Yeah, same here. I'm not many times, but 3 or 4 times, and never had to do it. So
I registered to vote when I was 18, all the way to now. I've been called for jury duty at least 20 times, but have never been chosen.
Yeah, I haven't had that many, but
this is not one jurisdiction. I mean, this is through all my moves and everything. So
that stuff,
I think that once you're not accepted a couple of times, like in the particular jurisdiction you're at, you probably don't get called.
Yeah, don't call that guy.
But I used to think it was because I was too educated, or maybe I was actually. Maybe I look too much like a hippie. Maybe I look too much like a surfer. Maybe whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I got to say, it's always at the point where I get asked about education that I get.
Yeah, forget about it.
So and it could just be, well, we have too many people with college educations now, and they're trying to get,
better mix
in preemptive challenges. Yeah, we need some high school graduates here. And stuff. So that could be it. And it's not as if there's just only a few people called. I mean, there's you're in a room with 100, 200 people.
Right.
All right. Paradise 50 is talking about the Black Moon that happens tomorrow night. And what that is when it's a new moon, but it is somewhat illuminated by the reflected light off of the Earth. So that you can kind of see it, and it looks like a black moon. So isn't that interesting? And it happens.
That's different, definitely.
Regularly. Isn't that something? All right. Events currently scheduled. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I couldn't mute the mic. I tried. All I could do is turn away.
Yeah,
boy, there's something.
Those come up so quickly that you can't.
I hate it because it's right.
Almost never.
Well, also, I'm right in the midst of doing something, and I get the tickle, and it's just I can't.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it, really.
And it doesn't happen. All right. Events currently scheduled, of course, is the only event scheduled still, and that's going to be happening on Monday, October 24th, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. in Asheville, North Carolina, as the Daily Coast Asheville Cossacks meet up at a restaurant to be determined to prepare for early voting with Reverend Barber.
Yeah.
There's other things going on there in North Carolina, too.
Yeah.
Of course, as we know. And we'll give you more information as we get closer to that date. Go to the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Diary for links galore to this event. And maybe you want to start a group in your area.
Yes.
What is Connect, Unite, Act? That means that you get together with people in real life in your area.
Cossacks and others that you can drag along. Yep, exactly.
So that you can unite in a common cause and act on it. And that's to elect more and better Democrats.
Heck yeah.
More and better Democrats. Democrats.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Not Greeniacs or any of those other oddball third party yada yada. Never seem to pan out.
That's fine. Yes, but
yeah, it's nice as an alternative, I guess. But man, it's been I don't know.
All sort of. God, he acts like a stoner. He's like the worst example of, like pot use, As I always say, pot doesn't make you any more stupid than you already are.
There you go.
It's not like it exaggerates your stupidity.
Right.
And it's certainly not that it, makes you stupid. You're already stupid. All right. So it does kind of amaze me, like a libertarian like this guy kind of fits the stereotype, not from the pot use, but fits the stereotype of really doesn't know shit about shit.
Right.
Who's your... He was gassed. Last night they had a town hall with him and Weld. Who's your favorite, national or international foreign leader? And he couldn't name one. Of course, Shimon Peres had died earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So he mentioned that. And then Chris Matthews' tweet, he says, no, I'll live in one. And then he was trying to come up with, one of the former Mexican presidents, and he just couldn't come up with his name. Now, I'm sorry. I mean, I had a little brain lock, trying to remember the character's name in the Shawshank Redemption,
Right.
But I'm not running for president. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
and then
Weld be kind of informed on that kind of stuff before you go into
then Weld came to his rescue and said, Markle. Well, it's really Merkel, but you were close.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's who you got running for the libertarian side.
Oh, man.
And then you got Jill Stein sitting down for wine and laughs with Putin.
Yeah. On the green side, yeah.
And this is what I don't understand. If you're going to sit down with Putin, get the vodka. The wine sucks.
Yeah, I would think Russian wine isn't all that great.
I mean, should disqualify her from being able to run for president.
You want to get the vodka, without a doubt.
Wine sucks. Well, I'm not kidding.
Yeah. They can grow potatoes in Russia, so you're all set there. You got all kinds of vodka.
Russia's big. It's the temperate zones.
Yes.
The point is that they haven't had enough, concerted effort to put, briars into the ground, let them grow for 100, 200 years.
There you go.
They probably keep digging them up to put potatoes in to make vodka.
Exactly.
A lot easier.
It is. Less wear and tear.
Okay. Oh, so that is your Connect Unite Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 29th of September of 2016. Okay, this next story. Oh, now we are officially in the last half, which looks like about the last third.
Yeah.
It's okay. Okay, this next story is by Ian Millhiser. And actually, this is a follow-up on the story yesterday where I spoke about, a flotilla full of lawyers, right, coming in and trying to pull shade on Obama, and it got really weird. Well, it's unlikely because this particular appellate district court has a liberal majority, we'll say. But the conservatives have a very weird view on what it is to live in America in a representative democracy. And this is, once again, by Ian Millhiser out of Think Progress. An unusual remark uttered by a judge on the nation's second most powerful court during a Tuesday hearing, which we spoke about yesterday, warns of a subtle looming threat to the freedom of the press. The remark was uttered by Judge Thomas Griffith, a George W. Bush appointee to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, and it reveals how a newly ascendant Supreme Court doctrine could have a chilling effect on journalists and other commentators who write about policy. To explain, on Tuesday, the D.C. Circuit heard a marathon 6 hours of oral arguments in West Virginia versus United States EPA, a challenge to an effort by the EPA to fight climate change. Remember that? A central issue in the case is who gets the benefit of the doubt if the provisions of federal law authorizing EPA to combat pollution are ambiguous and do not provide their answer regarding whether the agency acted within law.
Right.
EPA cites the Supreme Court's longstanding Chevron doctrine, which provides that such uncertainty should be resolved in the agency's favor. Opponents of EPA's plan cite another line of cases which suggest that, in particularly high-stakes cases, ambiguous laws must be read in the manner that is least favorable to the agency's position. The opponent's best weapon is a line the late Justice Antonin Scalia penned. Yes, the ghost of Antonin Scalia haunts us still. And he wrote in Utility Air Regulatory Group versus EPA, quote, "We expect Congress to speak clearly if it wishes to assign to an agency's decision a vast economic and political significance," end quote. The coal industry and its allies claim that West Virginia is just such a case. Now, what is this about? This is about putting a cap on coal emissions, okay? And the argument is the federal government can't come in here and tell us how to, that we have to have clean air, because that would impact business.
Yeah.
Not just business, because business now is political, apparently.
Yes.
And with Scalia's emphasis on economic and political significance, things turn on that terminology. So the conservatives on the court largely agree with that line of argument. EPA, meanwhile, claims that West Virginia is not such a case. And if Tuesday's argument is any indication, the liberals on the D.C. court largely agree with the EPA, which brings us to Judge Griffith's comment. Shortly after the Justice Department's attorney stood to argue EPA's position on Tuesday, several of the D.C. Circuit's most conservative judges revealed their incredulity at the very idea that West Virginia is not a case of vast economic and political significance, justifying a heavy thumb on the scale against EPA. Griffith offered one of the most creative justifications for this conclusion. A segment on the case was on NPR this morning. It's big news. This little-known EPA regulation that no one had any interest in, that was putting emissions on coal. Nobody cared about that until it was reported. Now it has political significance, and that means that the law can't fall on the side of the EPA.
There you go.
Talk about it. If you're a proponent and you think that you want clean air, do not write about it in a newspaper, because it'll make that regulation illegal now.
Right, exactly.
Millhiser says Griffith, in other words, appears to be claiming that the fact that a particular regulation receives a certain amount of media attention may bring that regulation under the rule Scalia announced. An agency's actions may be entirely legal under the Chevron regime, yet if enough journalists report on that action, it may become a matter of vast political significance, and that will render a once legal regulation illegal. See, they sit around. They complain about activist judges, but who are the most activist judges? The ones that come out of the Federalist Society. I guess I have to qualify it and say, in this reporter's opinion.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
No doubt about that. That's for sure. It is my opinion.
Well, no, there's no doubt that it comes out of the Federalists, though, too. Though I mean, that's where the activism comes from, really, more than anywhere.
Well,
more than anywhere.
To sum up,
I guess maybe some might think otherwise, but
to sum up, essentially what Millhiser is saying is, what I've stated is that the mere reporting on a regulation gives it political significance, and so it doesn't fall under the Chevron doctrine anymore. But the other one that would render illegal regulation illegal. This is what the conservatives on the court are thinking. I wonder where they got that idea. Energy Company, Koch brother, ALEC, Federalist Society.
All those, yeah.
Okay, when the Supreme Court announces that that a regulation becomes harder to justify legally as its political significance grows, it isn't just chilling speech by many writers and journalists. It risks skewing our entire political system by encouraging an entire array of lobbyists, advocates, elected officials, and other political actors to quiet their defense of a particular policy, lest that very defense make the policy illegal. Then again, that's not something the Constitution allows. I think we're still back to why we don't have a full Supreme Court right now.
Yep.
Because this is an appellate district court. Okay? And if they decide that, reporting on a regulation makes it illegal, that's going to get bumped up to the Supreme Court. Okay, well, with that, I guess we'll just talk about the illegal killing of horses tomorrow because we've run out of time, but that's okay. We'll be back here fresh and ready for you, and we'll try to figure out.
The bugs are gone when they look at all.
Rid of those internet monsters. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
All right. Well, it is Thursday, and we've got some fantastic content coming up for the rest of the day. So I would suggest continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And, well, why? Why, of course. Who loves you, baby? Okay. See you on the other side.
All right. We're out.